Asmongold playing Fortnite is about as bizarre as buying a brand new thing of RAM for a Core 2 quad system in 2022.
The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
This is it, the grand conclusion of Project EVTO, where we finally get the eMachine in working order with 4 gigs of RAM and Windows 10 64-bit, now that we're not going to be held back anymore by the 32-bit address limit. First order of business, though, just like last time, we have some other stuff to do with the systems. We're going to take that Kusuni RAM from last time and get Midnaughts up to 8 gigs. Something I didn't think was possible when I put this together, but when you do a little bit of digging, you find compatibility that wasn't otherwise there before. So, let's get to work on this, shall we? Part 1 will be Midnaughts. But Jay, they say, the Kusunis worked in the eMachine. Why would you want to get a whole different RAM set for them? Well, it's relatively simple. I want everything to match, and the Kusuni is 8 gigs. It was just to see if 2 gig sticks would work in the system. Now that I know that we do, we can get something that's a little bit more, shall we say, specialized for this system's needs. And there's what's coming out right there. A little hodgepodge of Crucial mixed in with half-height Amazon sticks. We tried to make it work, but now that we know that 2 gig sticks can work, let's pump this sucker up to 8. Okay, it wasn't entirely a mixture of Crucial and Amazon RAM. There was Kingston mixed in as well. Was it Kingston Value RAM, baby? Whatever. Turn them down. Or not. Kingston Value RAM, baby. Whatever.
Epic fail.
There we go. Finally, everything matches. The problem is these half-height sticks, they're a pain in the neck to put in because they barely go over the edge of the clamps on the sides. Just a bit of a pain in the neck to get them lined up just right. Okay, Midnaughts with 8 gigs of RAM. How much of it still works? Still posts. What registers for RAM? That's 8 gigs of DDR2 in a Core 2 quad system. This thing is absolutely getting lopsided now. I don't think the 8 gigs of RAM really made much of a difference for Unigine Valley. Keep in mind, Unigine Valley is circa 2013, so it's several years newer than the hardware generation represented in here. Radeon HD 6800, my original Skyrim graphics card. And of course we have the Core 2 Quad, bringing in 4 cores, and of course we have 8 gigs of RAM. It's kind of strange to have tuxedo level specs in a Core 2 Quad system. I just don't associate the Core 2 era with 8 gigs of RAM, but I suppose it was doable back then. Yeah, for reference, Tuxedo, with its AMD Phenom 2 1090Ti, started out with 8 gigs of RAM, and I thought that was a lot back in 2010. Well, this gives me another project system to just give me yet another reason to hook up what I want to hook up over in the main area, which is a 2-computer streaming setup. So I can have Monolith take care of all the streaming, and then whatever I have hooked up, whether it's a console or one of the systems, can provide the gameplay. And we can keep an eye on exactly what these various things can still play. It's something I've been tossing around for quite some time. Silver Bullet's over there right now. Just gotta run some wires over there. Maybe make it a weekend project or something. Alright, that's enough playing around with Midnaughts. Let's hook up the eMachine and move on to the main event, because we actually have to install 64-bit Windows this time. So that might require burning that CD again, but we'll do it. 4 gigs of RAM, here we come. Alright, this thing doesn't have any RAM. Let's remedy that. This Duomeiqi, or whatever the heck it is, however you say this brand name, is the last remaining DDR2 667 kit left on Amazon. Yet, if it's right, I actually got shorted the first order, so I got to process a return on that. If it's right, you should receive a thing with bubble wrap in it, and it got stuck. We unboxed this on stream earlier, but really? Why does this have to be so one-hand unfriendly? Alright, let's see, let's just do this. Oh, it's hitting the adhesive. There we go. No, it's still not coming out. Note to self, don't ever work in a maternity ward. Alright, let's see here. Duomeiqi, there we go. You should have 2 of these. The first one of these I ordered only had 1, and I thought, hey, it says 2 gigs on it. Is this really yeah, I don't know. Alright, let's get these out and let's plug them in. As you can see, they're pretty decent looking RAM sticks here. It's the only 4 gig kit that's left on Amazon, at least at this speed. We can probably get faster speeds if we wanted, but this thing was only made for DDR2 667 at 4 gigs. There was no official compatibility for faster DDR2 at 4 gigs. So let's pop these in and see if it even still starts. Alright, now I have 3 of them because I went and grabbed the one that I got shorted on. So here's something I'd like to do, because the vendor's been so courteous in getting this resolved and identifying that this was supposed to contain 2 of these things. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the one that I got shorted on that's already opened, and then open one of these for stick number 2, and then leave the other one to send back to the vendor so they can sort this all out and easily put it back out for sale or whatever it is. So we'll get that return process, but we'll actually send one of these that is still sealed back in the original packaging. So that way they have one that's not even opened. I only needed 2 of these, not 3, so and we'll see how they handle processing the refund. Just double checking the information on these 2. Yes, these are the same model number and everything. I legit got shorted. A partial somehow made it out of the factory. Woo! Alright, these 2 are going in the eMachine, and in this one is going back to the vendor for a refund. Finally, some full-size RAM again. I can't emphasize how much more fun it is to work with full-size sticks of RAM instead of those dumb little half-height things. Way easier to push things in. So either that or I'm just too used to full-size sticks of RAM. Alright, let's apply power and see what this thing still does. 4 gigs of RAM, crappy old eMachine. Contact. Regular post. Good. Into the BIOS, because the operating system's not going to show all 4 gigs of RAM. The only way... Oops, it's an F10 system. Too late.
Epic fail.
Round 2. Let's try hitting the right button this time. I can't believe running the thing full blast like that is part of the post. F10, 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 F10. Oh, no, F2, 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 F2. Yay! Good. Standard CMOS. Huh? 2.882560K.
Epic fail.
Alright. Boot drive is unplugged, so it has nothing to boot to. So let's see. I think the problem was the second stick, because I was having a hard time getting it seated in there, so it probably wasn't seated correctly. Yeah, we still have a normal post with just this one stick. Now let's flip the sticks around. Or, maybe it would be better to take a hint from the manufacturer and put something in the one on the right first, and then the one on the left. The second stick is now on the right. We took the first stick out. What postcode do we get? Standard post. Okay, yeah. It's a bit hard squeezing a stick between all the cables and stuff, so it's better to put the sticks in right to left in this thing. Oh yeah, hey, when we're looking up BIOS updates for this thing, it's revision 3.1 of the board. As predicted, it was way easier to put the left stick in second because of just the stuff that gets in your way. What do we get for a postcode? Normal post. And let's go to the BIOS with F2 and see how much RAM we have to play with. Weird, it's still not detecting it properly. Ha! 288, etc. But it's actually reading it wrong. Weird. Let's see how much RAM that Windows thinks it has. 4 gigs installed, 2.75 gigs available. Is that because there's a problem with the RAM, a problem with the motherboard, or we need Windows 64 on this thing? Let's go for the most obvious solution and put Windows 64 on here. Sunrise approaches, and I cannot believe how near impossible it was to get Windows 10 64 working on this system. The installer kept looping and looping and looping. I thought it was the hard drive last time, but I think what's doing it this time is that I was trying to install Windows without using a Microsoft account. Now we know that Microsoft is getting more aggressive with this as Windows 11 becomes more of a thing. But this is Windows 10. Shouldn't be dealing with this kind of stuff. So what I did was I took the back path, I set up my Microsoft account, then created a local account, switched to it, and deleted my Microsoft account. So yet another set of extra steps because I want to use this computer differently than Microsoft wants me to. And after all of that, the RAM is still not all usable. I think we need to look into testing the sticks and a BIOS update. We had this problem with Tuxedo once before. So we know that the Kusunis work, but these Duomeiqi whatever it is, I don't know. I may have to crack open that other one. We got to test these sticks one at a time. Fortunately, with using a real graphics card in here, G-parted, the CD version, works with this machine. So we can use memtest86 on it to try these sticks out and see how good they are. Either way, a little bit of more work to do after we start doing things at work again. Just my usual non-luck would have it. Okay, this is where it's going to get annoying because we got to see which of these sticks is struggling the most. So we're going to run it in 2 gigs. Alright, see which of these has barely enough RAM to start because not all the RAM is being recognized or it's not all registering. We had this problem with Tuxedo before too, and we had to do some poking around to get the RAM to all register properly. Or maybe it'll take a BIOS update if this thing was allegedly only made for 2 gigs and I'm pushing the limits. Let's test the sticks individually first, beginning with this one on the right, and then we shall see. We know we've gotten it to like 3-something gigs before with the Kusuni RAM. I just don't have to buy a Kusuni kit in order to get this working. Stick number 1, full 2 gigs. I'll bet any money stick number 2 is going to be full 2 gigs as well, but when we try doing both sticks, the motherboard has problems with all the memory. Or maybe it's limited by the processor, who knows, I don't know, it's a crappy Celeron. I'd have to do some digging on why this thing was only rated for 2 gigs max. It has 2 darn things, so... Hence the talk of upgrading the BIOS. Oh, what is this? Oh, a bunch of other command windows running. Okay, let's be a little adventurous here. Almost tipped the stupid computer over, trying to get the darn RAM out of the socket. Alright, now let's switch this over to the other socket, and, yeah, we don't want to tip the machine again. We'll switch over to socket number 2, and then let's see if it still all registers like it's supposed to. My fingers! It's like playing guitar for the first time in a long time. Why can't all RAM be like gaming RAM and be like smooth cartridges instead of these narrow things that dig into your fingers? Does it boot? Yep, it still boots. So, however long it takes to load Windows 10, does it still have 2 gigs of RAM? This is very slow. I don't know if it's trying to receive Windows updates or something while it is only running 2 gigs of RAM. You know what? I think I'm going to stop fighting against gravity and, of course, creaky chairs and stuff like that. So, why don't we actually get gravity on our side and install the RAM with this thing lying on its side? Where's that towel I used to put these systems on? Been a couple of years since I ran a system this way. But I did actually push that RAM in from above, and it was a lot easier when you're not pushing it in weirdly from the side. What's it gonna take to get all this to register? You know what? Celeron 440. Let's look it up and see what the max memory on it was. Nah, let's not. Let's up the ante here with swabs and alcohol, because it's usually motherboard and chipset drivers that determine max RAM, but I managed to get more of the RAM to detect when I used the Kusuni stuff. Am I really gonna have to mix and match the RAM inside of Midnaughts? We can't do that thing I was talking about earlier. Look at the differences. There's our problem. It's not a proper matched pair. So the labels on the chips are a little different, and so are the size of the memory chips. So as much as I was trying to be a nice guy, we're not going to be able to be a nice guy. We got to bust this one open so that both sticks of RAM will be exactly the same. Yeah, when they say that your RAM needs to be installed in matched pairs, they really mean it. Let's see what happens. Besides that, of course. That's it. We're going nuclear. I am not going to watch this video deteriorate down to half the video being me checking the usable amount of RAM. Alright, what's the BIOS date on this thing? We're gonna find the latest BIOS update for this piece of junk. Restart. Celeron 5/9/2008. This might not end well. Alright, this computer's as good as disposable with the hardware that's in it. And because the original support site for this is long gone, kind of like eMachines as a brand, apparently there was a BIOS update in 2009. Let's let's try this out. Worst comes to worst, I'll return the RAM if I wreck this machine. Third-party driver sites, I almost never use those. Very often they're scams and stuff, which is one reason why I don't have my account information on this machine anymore. It's just a generic offline account. As predicted with the sketchiness of those third-party websites, it's mislabeled. This is literally the BIOS that is already installed that I would be trying to reinstall. So it wouldn't even be a BIOS upgrade. Do I really want to use this with 2.75 gigs of RAM? There's gotta be more to this story. We're done trying to mess with this thing. It is never going to properly support 4 gigs of RAM. It's always going to be 2 gigs and change, like what we have right now. So I suppose it's better than 2 gigs, but hey, the RAM only costs $15. We can't really complain. Alright. This is the ECS 945 GCT M3 revision 3.1 eMachines Special. The BIOS is as up-to-date as it's going to get, and the memory controller only supports 2 gigs of RAM. So to get 2.75 gigs available out of 4 is basically squeezing more out of the board than what it actually is made for. It does support Core 2 Duos, though, so I'm curious if my Core 2 Duo that I've had sitting around since I upgraded the other system to Core 2 Quad would work in this thing and actually make it a proper dual-core. But before we go messing with processors, and all the headaches of messing with heatsink compound and all that other crap, we're going to do what we wanted to do with this thing, crappy amount of RAM and all. Let's get Novabench and UserBenchmark on that desktop. This is going to go to a night 3 or whatever it is. Sunrise approaches and I go to run benchmarks and the computer is completely slammed 100% CPU and Windows Update is magically installing all kinds of updates. Because I forgot, I redid Windows from the ground up for 64-bit, so all of those updates I had to download the last time I set up Windows on this stupid thing, I gotta download them all again. Oops. We actually have to drag this out longer than I wanted to. We'll come back to this. Are we really about to do this? I guess we are. Celeron single-core 2 GHz 1050 Ti. It says there's 4 gigs of DDR2, though. I don't know if that's right. Let's just see what happens with Novabench. Since we now finally have, after all this time, 64-bit Windows working. We'll see what kind of crappy numbers we can get from all of this. It's been quite some time as I've tried to get back into the swing of things with the 9-to-5ers. It took a long time for you to not be totally just exhausted every night. But here we are, finally getting this done. See you at the graphics tests. Oh, this isn't good. No, it actually didn't even load the graphics test. The whole thing just... Oh, here we go. I spoke too soon. It just took a really long time to load. Alright, so the horribleness of single-core Celeron being completely throttled and spoiled by an by the 1050 Ti of all things. If it ever stops loading... Oh... Oh, finally, we have something resembling a frame rate. 30 FPS. 17, 12, how low can you go? 12 FPS. It is so slow and it can't even get the graphics correct. It's glitching out some of the things in here. 9 FPS. The FPS counter can't even pick it up. 6 FPS, 5 FPS. No way. Processor just doesn't have the horsepower. 5 FPS is 720p 30 with a 1050 Ti. It's probably the most CPU bottlenecked I've ever had anything. 6 and 7 FPS. Come on, computer, you're boring me to death. Alright, what's our number? Novabench had a problem completing some tests. There's a problem running this test. Please try again, or reinstall Novabench if it continues to fail. I hate to break it to you, Novabench, but you're not the problem.
Epic fail.
Well, that's enough crashing Novabench for one night. Now let's do some user benchmark. Now that we finally have an OS that'll support it. Welcome to user benchmark. I guess it's not going to work when we get to the skill bench thing. I'm going to get my worst score ever. Single core, single core. We shall be back when we get to graphics. You know you have a terrible processor when the numbers you see in user benchmark from your processor look like testing the throughput on a hard drive. Okay, ooh. Oh yeah, I do remember the 1050 Ti carrying its weight once it got everything loaded. As long as it didn't have to depend on the CPU very much, it was fine. So the question is here, what's gonna happen when this thing gets to skill bench? I can't believe we're getting 1080-30 with a single core processor. Probably because the benchmarks run entirely off of your GPU. Come on, computer, stop boring me so much. Alright, there's the thing passing through the whatever. And here's the particle effects. And where's skill bench? 37 FPS on that one. Alright. Back to the sequential write speed of the drive. Oh, here we go. Well, this looks normal-ish. Alright, and... Oh, it keeps going back because the hard drive... Okay, here's skill bench. Skill bench on the eMachine. If it loads... Oh, we are dead in the water on this. Oh, here we go. I'm getting stuttering. Just trying to move anything. What? I'm getting stuttering just trying to move anything. I'm running out of mouse pad. Are we done yet? Finally! Use the cameras to find the reds and greens first. Actually, no. I think I would rather just get a better computer. Whatever.
Epic fail.
Tree trunk, tree trunk, tree trunk. Actually, it was tree trunk speedboat tree trunk. Processor. With a relatively low single-core score, this CPU can handle email, light web browsing, and basic audio-video playback, but it will struggle to handle CPU-intensive tasks. Yeah, it's a Celeron single-core from the 2000s. The CPU stability for 3D gaming is poor. Oh man, oh man, oh man. Why is the RAM detecting at 4 gigs though? Is it being, misstated in the thing up there or something? Or maybe it's only, what's available versus what's in there. I don't know. Regardless, this is the eMachine finally running UserBenchmark. And as you can guess, it's complete crap. And so we have reached the rather underwhelming conclusion of this whole matter with the Celeron or whatever in this eMachine. Not that you would expect anything more from a computer of this caliber, or whatever you want to call it. Either way, I will leave the differences between the date on the title card of this video and the publish date on YouTube as the monument to how freaking long it took me to get this done. If only that RAM hadn't been delayed, this could have all been nicely buttoned up for Project EVTO. Or would it? Because despite all that's going on right now, this eMachine story still is not over. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.